Hey everyone, it's Jananie and welcome back to my channel. This story ain't over. Today I am bringing you, as always, my monthly TBR, this time for February. And although it is the shortest month of the year, I have somehow planned the most ambitious TBR ever, but I really want to get to all of these books, so we're gonna see how this goes. February is the month of Black History Month, but also Valentine's Day, and I feel like those are the two largest themes that I see coming across in people's TBRs for this month. So for my TBR this month, aside from some of the book club picks that I have, I'm trying to read books all by Black authors, and then I'm going to be reading a small selection of romance books for hopefully a romance reading vlog that you can look forward to around Valentine's Day. So with that said, before we get into the books on my TBR for February, let's talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is Book of the Month. So no surprise, you guys know I've talked about Book of the Month multiple times before. I love talking about their new picks of the month during my TBRs every month. So if you don't know, Book of the Month is a really fast growing online book service for readers. Their mission is to support new and emerging authors and help readers find books that they're gonna love. The way it works is that they vet hundreds of titles that are coming out each month and give you a curated mix of new and early releases that you can pick from to grab in your Book of the Month box. And the hope is that you can spend less time searching for your next read and just actually picking up some great books. As always, one of the things that I absolutely love about Book of the Month and which makes it a great service is that if ever you don't like the picks of the month, you can just skip that month, pause your subscription, and just start again the next month. It's totally risk-free, so you're always getting books that you're looking forward to reading, and it's just an awesome way to just brighten up your day during the month. Book of the Month also has some of the best prices for hardcover fiction. If you're familiar with hardcover book prices, and especially adult hardcover fiction prices, they are astronomical. But with Book of the Month, you can get your first box for only $9.99 with my code STORY. So if you use the link in my description and my code STORY, you can grab your first box for only $9.99. That's a new release hardcover adult book for only $9.99. That's an insane price, and I feel like you're just not gonna get that kind of price anywhere else, so it's definitely a deal worth jumping on. The service is US only, so just be aware of that, but let me tell you the picks of the month for February. So for my Book of the Month box this month, I decided I want to pick up Peach Blossom Spring by Melissa Fu. This one sounds super interesting. It's a historical fiction and it's set in 1938 China. The next Book of the Month pick is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross, and this one seems like a really interesting adult fantasy where some girls have gone missing and a mystery is afoot. The next one seems like it's going to be a really heartbreaking one, and that is Don't Cry for Me by Daniel Black. And from what I can tell, this is about a father writing letters to his gay son on his deathbed trying to make amends. The next book is Vladimir by Julia May Jonas, and this seems like it's going to be a literary fiction about a married couple who have been involved in extramarital affairs. And then the final Book of the Month pick for February is The Golden Couple by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. This one seems pretty interesting because it's about a married couple who are having some problems going to a therapist who happens to have lost her license, and it seems like it'll be a little bit of a thriller, I'm assuming. Alrighty, those are all of the picks for Book of the Month for February. You should definitely go check out all of them. I'm especially excited for Peach Blossom Spring. I think it's gonna be a really moving story, but you guys should definitely go grab your first Book of the Month box for only $9.99 with my code STORY and use the link in my description. As always, thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring these videos, and let's get back to my TBR. So the first book on my TBR is, of course, the Read and Color book club pick for the month. If you don't know, I have a book club that I run. It's free. Anyone can join. You just have to read the book of the month with us and join along. And then there's discussion on an app called Fable, links below. And we also do a live show at the beginning of the next month in partnership with another book influencer of some kind. And the point of the book club is to read a book by a BIPOC author, a person of color, and sort of expand our horizons. So our book club pick for February is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. N.K. Jemisin is a Black author, so I wanted to make a point of doing that for Black History Month. And our co-host for the month is going to be Olivia from Livy Simone. She has some great videos. You should definitely go check them out. She's also very artistic, and I just love her energy and just her smile. She's just a joy to watch, so you should definitely go check her out. I'll leave her links down below. But she actually suggested The City We Became. I had been meaning to read N.K. Jemisin's The Broken Earth trilogy for the longest time, but I also knew that this book came out a couple years ago, I think, and a lot of people had sort of mixed feelings about it. So I know some of you have told me that you really loved it, but I also know some of you who said it was a bit of a struggle for you to get through. So I'm really curious to see what I'm going to think of this one, just because the author is so highly regarded, but also because I don't know too much about the plot of this book, because all I really know is that it is set in New York City and it has a bit of like a fantasy element to it, and I've heard that it's just really breathtaking and great. So we're gonna see how it goes. Neil Gaiman has called it glorious, and I don't doubt his words. If any of you have read this, let me know your thoughts on it down below. And anyone who has been following along for our Reading Color book club, I hope you will enjoy this read. Alrighty, next on my TBR is of course always my Patreon book club pick of the month. If you don't know, I have a Patreon where you can sign up for a little subscription each month, support my channel, and also get some exclusive and extra perks from me, including early access to my videos, some extra exclusive videos, and also a monthly book club where we read a book that you guys get to choose and I read with you. So for February, my patrons were actually super on the fence about which book to read. There was like a half and half split between two books, but in the end, I ended up breaking the tie, and we are reading The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. I have been meaning to read this book for ages. It's also on my 5-star predictions for 2022 video, so I am going to be vlogging the experience of reading this one. But basically, I've been anticipating this book for ages, and I just never got around to it in 2021, even though I bought it in 2021. And basically, this follows a priestess and a princess, I believe. There's a sapphic romance. It's set in a South Asian-inspired fantasy world, and it's just all the things that would make me fall in love with the book, so I'm very excited. And I've also heard some really amazing things from many of you and also some of my friends who have read this recently, so I'm just overall hyped for this book. If you want to join along with me and my patrons to read The Jasmine Throne, I would highly suggest going and checking out my Patreon. We usually do the live show at the end of the month, so you still have time to join even if you're watching this video like a little bit later into the month. Alright, the next book on my TBR is actually a book club pick for the Literally Dead book club, which is run by Kayla from Books and Lala. You guys may know I absolutely love Kayla from Books and Lala. Her channel is one of my favorites to watch on a regular basis, so I here and there try to join in for her book club. And she actually has some really great picks for February, March, and April, so I think I'm actually going to be joining in for all 3 months. So the February book club pick that she has is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. The reason I particularly want to join in for this month is because I actually own this already from a previous book of the month box. So I was just like, why not? It's a book by a Black author. It is a thriller, and that is something new for me. I don't really read a lot of thrillers, and I thought it would be a great way just to knock another book off my physical TBR. So we'll see how this one goes. I have actually not heard too much about this book, so I would love to hear any thoughts that you guys may have if you have read it. All right, the next book that I'm hoping to read is another book that's been on my TBR for a while now, and that is Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. This is actually a book that I got as a recommendation from Kayla. I've seen her talk about this multiple times, and this was also a previous book club pick, I believe, for the Literally Dead book club. But this is a bit of a gothic horror, I would say. It seems like dark academia a little bit as well. It's about the school for higher learning called Catherine House, set deep in the woods of rural Pennsylvania. And it's this really prestigious school that's hard to get into and hard to afford, it seems like. But for a select few, the tuition can be free on one condition, and that is for the 4 years that they are at Catherine House, they will have no contact with the outside world. And so obviously the book follows a main character who gets into the school by a scholarship, and she is forced to cut off contact with everyone in the outside world. You can't even watch like TV, I think, and you have to leave all your belongings behind, and it just seems like a recipe for disaster and also some creepy shit to go on. I have heard that this is a very polarizing book. People either loved it or hated it, and I'm really intrigued by that, so I'm excited to pick this one up very soon. This is another book that is by a Black author. All right, this next book is a sci-fi that recently came out, but this is the ARC that the publisher sent me, and that is Goliath by Tochi Onyebuchi. This one I am super excited for, one, because I love sci-fi, and I'm excited to read a new sci-fi, adult sci-fi, but I'm also really excited for this one because I have read Tochi Onyebuchi's previous adult novel / novella, which is called Riot Baby, and that one's also a bit of a speculative fiction and has some interesting discussions about race. And so this one is also no different. It has some interesting discussions about race and like how that affects the sci-fi world, and I'm just really darn excited for this. I think it's going to be fantastic, and I just love the way that he wrote Riot Baby, so I'm excited to see if I'm going to enjoy this one just as much. But this one's like a hard sci-fi, involves like spaceships and like a far future world, and I just love sci-fi's like that, so cannot wait. All right, the next book is one that I've talked about a few times recently, I feel like, and that is The Bennett Woman by Eden Appiah Kubi. This one is a bit of a retelling slash loose rendering of Pride and Prejudice in our modern day, and it follows 3 different women who live in an all-girls dorm at this like prestigious university, and it involves all of their like romantic escapades, and it seems like it's gonna be a lot of fun. I love that it's a diverse cast, and I'm just curious about the whole Pride and Prejudice aspect of it. And I just love anything Jane Austen and any like modern renderings of Jane Austen, so I'm really excited for this one. I haven't heard many reviews on this one though, so I'm curious to see if anyone else has liked it. If you've read it, let me know. But this one is also written by another Black author. All right, this next book is a YA fantasy that many of you have told me is amazing. It was also on my video for the 22 books that I need to read from my physical TBR. And that book is Raybearer by Jordan E. Foucault. And this one I don't know too much about, but it just seems like it's gonna be really interesting. And based off of what many of you have said, a lot of you loved it, so I'm very, very excited for it. This is one that I've had on my TBR for ages now as well. It follows a young woman who has never really known love from her mother, and her mother is sort of this like very distant figure that she calls the lady. And the book is set in a fantasy world, and so there's a crown prince who is looking for a new council. And this council is called the Council of 11. And the way it works, I believe, is that when certain children come of age, they compete to join the Council of 11. And the relationship that the crown prince has with the Council of 11 is sort of like this very strong bond and like family bond, and I think magical bond as well. And so the main character, who's never really known love or like a strong relationship, is very excited by this. But her mother, the lady, has tasked her with murdering the crown prince. And I think I mentioned this in the other video, but this really gives me Ella Enchanted vibes, and I'm just excited for that aspect. But I'm just mostly excited because so many of you have said it's fantastic. All right, the next book on this TBR is another YA fantasy, and that is Within These Wicked Walls by Lauren Blackwood. I have mentioned that this is a retelling of Jane Eyre, but one of you actually corrected me in the comments of a previous video and said that it's actually more of a very loose retelling. It's like very on the surface like Jane Eyre. So I just want to clear that up so people didn't get their expectations too high like I may have. So thank you to that person. But yeah, this is loosely inspired by Jane Eyre. The characters are sort of set up in that same way. It is set in a fantasy world. The main character is something called a Debtera, which is an exorcist who is tasked with cleansing households of the evil eye. But when she is about to gain her license, her mentor sort of throws her out and stops her from getting her license. And so she's left without work and trying to figure out what to do. And this is when a handsome young heir named Magnus Rochester reaches out to hire her to cleanse his household. And so she ends up moving into the house, I believe, and trying to figure out a way to cleanse this home. And I think from there, parts of it are inspired by Jane Eyre, but obviously it has its own plot and things going on. This is an Ethiopian-inspired fantasy, which seems really interesting. And I just really love this cover and the idea that it's a gothic horror and that it's inspired by Jane Eyre. So I'm hoping that I'll really love this, regardless of how closely it is matched to Jane Eyre. I think regardless of that, I just love gothic horrors in general, so I'm hoping I'll love this. All right, now we are getting to the part of the TBR where there's just a bunch of romance novels that I'm hoping to read for like Valentine's Day timing. So the first one is 7 Days in June by T.L. Williams. I have seen this around Bookstagram a lot, and it is a Reese Witherspoon book club pick. I loved this cover, first of all, it's gorgeous. And then I read the description and I was like, this is exactly the type of thing that I would love. Basically, it follows 2 main characters. The first is Ava Mercy, who is a single mom and also an erotica writer. And then the other one is Shane Hall, who is known to be this reclusive and award-winning novelist. And so these two have like their vague writing careers, and they end up meeting at this literary event one day in June. And sparks sort of fly, and everyone at the event is sort of surprised by this. But what no one knows is that 15 years ago, when they were both teenagers, they spent 1 week madly in love before they were separated because of some reason. And so from there, these two are spending a week in June after this literary event, sort of going through their collective traumas and sort of realizing that they've secretly been writing to each other through their novels over the past 15 years, and their love story just unfolds over these 7 days in June. I absolutely love romances that take place over like a short amount of time. I always find them so interesting and like so whirlwindy, and I love romances that are like that. So I'm hoping that this one will give me all the vibes that I'm looking for, and it just seems like it's going to be a really fantastic read. So if anyone has read this, I would love to know your thoughts on it because I've heard like mixed-ish things, but personally I think I'm gonna love this. So we'll see how it goes. All right, the next book that I have is one that I've been meaning to read for ages, and that is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. This is the new mass market paper-bound copy, which has like this adorable cover, and I just love how pink this is. It's just so cute. But you're probably more familiar with like the illustrated greenish cover. I also love that one, but this one's just so cute. This book follows our main character, Stella, who in her regular job makes algorithms to predict customer purchases, which has been a really lucrative career for her, but she is totally lacking in the dating department. And she also has Asperger's as well, and that's what the description says, and she's just like totally inexperienced with dating and what like a relationship would look like. So what she decides to do is hire a male escort to teach her how to do the whole dating romance thing. And of course, what else is gonna happen but her falling for this male escort? And I just absolutely love this entire concept. I know a lot of people really love this one, so I am excited to pick it up, and I've heard it has some like really steamy scenes as well, so I think it's just gonna be like a fun Valentine's Day read. All right, the next romance that I have is one that I saw a lot around book talk, so I thought I would just pick it up, and that is The Singles Table by Sarah Desai. This one is a bit of a opposites attract romance. It follows this free-spirited lawyer named Zara Patel, who's recently been through a very tough breakup, so she's like, I don't believe in love, that sort of thing. She ends up at her cousin's wedding and is at the singles table and meets this grumpy bachelor named Jay Dial, and she decides to make a little bit of a project out of him and says that she'll introduce him to some of her celebrity clients and sort of set him up. And so from there she's trying to find his like perfect match, but obviously the two of them are gonna fall in love, and it sounds like the perfect recipe for a romance, and I just love the entire concept. I also love that this is a South Asian romance as well, so I'm excited for that. But if you've read this, I would love to know what you thought of it because it just seems super cute, and I love like the whole idea of setting someone up and then falling for him. I think it's a cute concept. I've seen it in like romantic comedies and I just love it, so excited for this one. Alrighty, and then the final two books that I have on this TBR for like the romancy books that I'm hoping to read are both by the same author or authors, and that is Christina Lauren. So I have The Unhoneymooners, and then I also have The Soulmate Equation. So I had The Unhoneymooners on my TBR for a while. I bought this copy I think last year. I had started it, but I never got around to finishing it. I only got like, I think 30 pages in or something, so not very far. I do want to finish this at some point. It's about the best man and I think the maid of honor who, like the actual bride and groom, end up getting sick and not being able to take their honeymoon vacation. So the best man and the maid of honor end up going on the vacation in their place and taking their spot, and the two of them obviously end up falling in love on this vacation. And the situation is a bit of a hate to love kind of thing, like they really don't like each other at the beginning, but obviously fall for each other. And then The Soulmate Equation is actually one that I picked up solely because of one TikTok by the book talker Azanta. I will leave her linked down below. She's fantastic, has some really great videos. She also shares my love of Sabatihira books, so I knew I had to trust her immediately. But I saw her talk about this book and I was like, this sounds adorable. It's basically about this single mom named Jessica who is a bit of a statistics wizard, and when she finds out that there is this DNA-based matchmaking service, she's like, this sounds really cool, let me try it out, maybe it'll help me out. And it's called Genetically. And what ends up happening is that she gets a 98% match with one of the founders of this matchmaking service, but she's already met him and, you know, doesn't seem like she's gonna mesh with him. But what ends up happening is that the company says that they have a proposition. If she's willing to get to know him and like give it a chance, they will pay her to do so. And she needs the money, so she decides to go along with this, and she is like paraded around to different events with him, and they're dubbed as the diamond match, as like the perfect match of this company and like matchmaking service. It seems like it's going to be a really interesting situation, and just based off of the TikTok that I saw, it seems like it's going to be fantastic. I would love to hear though from any of you who have read either of these Christina Lauren books. Which one did you like better and what did you think of them individually? Alrighty, but with that said, those are the final books on this ridiculously long TBR. I feel like I've been talking for ages, but maybe this video wasn't that long. We'll see. I have a super ambitious TBR. I feel like I really knocked my TBR out of the park for January. Even though I didn't finish the full thing, I like got to most of it. I definitely don't think I'm going to get to all of these books on this TBR, but I do want to try to make the effort to get to as many of them as I can. And then as I said, I'm hoping to do a romance vlog for you guys, and I'm also working on some other secret TBR videos that you'll hopefully see during this month. And I'm also just hoping to get to all of these like fantastic books that have been on my TBR for a while that are by Black authors, and just to read them during this month. Obviously you should be reading books by Black authors all year around, but I'm just hoping to take this moment to just make an added effort to read them. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below what's on your TBR for February, and also let me know if you've read any of the books on my list and what you thought of them. As always, I love hearing what you guys have to say about the books that I am hoping to read because it just really helps me figure out what I want to read next, and I just appreciate hearing from you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Go check out my Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, and TikTok in the description down below, and I will see you in my next video. So please remember that the story ain't over. Bye!